Hello, everyone. How you doing? Good? All right. So I'm just going to tell you a little bit about the piece so your ears are kind of tuned to what to listen to. I'm going to start off first with, what is an oratorio? What is that? I'm sure not a lot of you know that. But an oratorio, they've been around for a long time. It's basically just a sung drama. So it's like seeing an opera or seeing a musical, but there's no action. There's no staging, there's no sets, there's no acting. It's basically the singer standing up here and just singing the drama to you. The most famous would probably be Handel's Messiah. It's an oratorio as well. So it tells the dramatic story of the resurrection, but there's no acting, there's no lights or anything like that. So basically what you're going to see is the singer standing up here and the choir there just singing you all of the music. So it is basically just a concert, but there is, drama involved to it. So the piece itself, how it came to be, it actually started about 3 years ago when we did the capital campaign for this building and the window. And I mentioned to Kevin, who you just saw, I heard they were doing the window, and I was like, what a great opportunity to write a piece for the new building, because there's a great history in music of composers writing music to dedicate new buildings and to dedicate works of art. There's kind of a history of that, so I was like, well, why not do that myself? So I just mentioned I wanted to write him like a little 3 to 4 minute piece to dedicate it to the new building, and it's turned into this. But that's the great part about here is we dream big, and I wanted to create something as massive and impressive, or at least try to create something that holds up to this, which is pretty amazing. How many of you are seeing it for the first time? Cool, great, yeah, it's pretty amazing, right? How I structure my piece, as you'll see in the program, if you've gotten the program, it's in 3 parts. So the window is in 3 parts. So you'll see part 1's over here on the left. It's most Old Testament figures and creation. The middle part here is Jesus in the garden and a lot of his ministry during his life. And part 3 is over to the right, and that is it tells pretty much the story of the history of Christianity, all the way from Peter all the way down to Martin Luther King Jr. and Billy Graham. And so the piece kind of follows the 3 parts of the window. But I didn't really want to just have random things, because that's not fun if I just do random scenes. I wanted there to be a through line that carries the whole piece together. And so I found the one part that's constant in the whole window is the river. So you'll see the river that's in the shape of omega that flows through all sections. And so that's the thing that holds the window together, just stylistically. And so I was like, well, why doesn't the river hold my piece musically together? So you'll see number 1 is called Shall We Gather. The hymn Shall We Gather at the River is the backbone of my piece. You'll hear it many, many times throughout the course of the piece. And so that is my musical representation of the river. So you'll hear the choir start out singing Shall We Gather at the River, and that tune is going to carry us, it's going to come in various disguises throughout the whole piece. So that's kind of the backbone of the whole thing that's holding the whole thing together. I'll just tell you a few interesting things about some of the movements. The second movement, All Creatures of Our God and King, there is a point at the end where you are free to sing along. We're going to have words at the end of some of these hymns. All Creatures of Our God and King, When I Survey the Wondrous Cross, Lift High the Cross, and Yes, We'll Gather at the River are going to have portions of you where you can sing along. And it'll be hopefully obvious where you're free to sing along. You're free to sing. You're free to just sit there and enjoy it. But just know that if you want to sing out, you are free to do that. We wanted to make worship and communal worship a part of this piece and not just a piece where you sit there and watch. We wanted you to be a part of it. So feel free to participate in those moments. Number 4, the Elegy for Eden, is interesting if you'll look at the text for that movement, which you have in your programs. It's interesting because it's all made of limericks. So, like Hickory Dickory Dock, Mouse Ran Up the Clock, that limerick. So all of the text in Elegy for Eden is made of limericks, which is kind of fun. So you'll see the main limerick is, we mourn for Eden's fate, a garden all too great. At such high cost, our garden lost, one bite is all it takes. So it's just a nice poetic way to depict that part of the window and the fall of man. You'll also notice there's some You'll also notice in that movement there is a Jewish lament, Avinu Malkeinu. We wanted to include a lot of religious history and music, so you'll hear some Latin, you're going to hear some Hebrew, there's going to be old tunes from the Catholic faith and the Jewish faith. We wanted to include a lot of those historical moments in the church in this piece, so you'll kind of hear them weaved in with everything to kind of tie everything together. And let me see what else we've got in here. The flood is an interesting thing. There's been a lot of music and movies and things done about the biblical flood, as you'll see Noah there with the ark. I didn't really want to do another biblical flood piece, so I chose a great poem by Ralph Waldo Emerson that you can read in your programs. And it just speaks about water and the destructive power of water, and water is a huge theme in the piece. So I wanted to make it more pertinent to our lives today, because, water has a very profound impact on our lives today, just as it did back then. So I wanted to kind of bridge the gap between the flood story of the biblical times and our modern lives, where we're still affected by floods and water and things of that nature. So it just makes it a little bit more personal for us to connect to that story. Part 2, which is called, I've called Redemption and Conversations. It alternates hymns about the crucifixion with areas of Jesus' ministry and where Jesus ministers to various people. So you'll notice there's 3 big hymns in part 2. It starts with When I Survey the Wondrous Cross, then it goes to Lift High the Cross, and the last one is Were You There? So those are reminders of Jesus' ultimate fate, but they're also mixed in with him ministering to people. So part 2 is kind of a mixture of the good that he did and also his ultimate fate and his ultimate sacrifice for us. So it's kind of a cool musical depiction of both of that. And that culminates in number 13, the Ballad of the Two Marys. And when I met with Adam to talk about this window, he talked about the two Marys on either side of Jesus, and that's his favorite part of the window. You had the Virgin Mary on the left and Mary Magdalene on the right. And I thought, what an interesting thing to tell the crucifixion of Jesus through everyone's eyes but Jesus. So everyone speaks except for Jesus during his crucifixion. And so we see the crucifixion through the eyes of the two Marys. And there are 2 soprano soloists who are fantastic. And they're going to be singing about the crucifixion of Jesus while the choir is singing The Son of Man Will Suffer at Their Hands. So the choir represents the crowd, and the 2 Marys are up here, and we hear the crucifixion story, but from everyone's perspective except for Jesus, which I thought was an interesting perspective of that. So that's part 2. Part 3, that kind of leaves us in a very, dark place with the need for resurrection. So Church of the Resurrection, you can't end there because death is not the last thing. So the third part is a chance for us to resurrect again. So it starts off with a beautiful soprano solo about our need for Jesus and our need for redemption and our need for salvation. And then we get into The Window Speaks, which is something I wanted to do for the whole piece. I wanted the window to come to life. So in that movement, it's going to come to life. This is the best of our ability to do that. So you'll see all of these historical figures on the side. I've picked a handful of them. I mean, it's impossible to pick all of them. But I picked a handful of them, and I picked quotes that they are famous for. And so what you'll hear is the orchestra and choir singing various hymns and things from the history of Christianity while their quotes kind of float over the top of that. So the window will, in essence, come to life for you, and you'll hear these figures speak. And so it's a chance for the window to become this living, breathing thing, and you'll get to experience that, which is pretty amazing. And that leads us into the final movement, which is, Yes, We'll Gather at the River. And this answers the question that we posed at the beginning of the piece. As you'll remember, the piece starts with Shall We Gather at the River, which is the hymn that holds it all together, which is a question, shall we gather? We pose it, shall we do that? And the whole piece is an opportunity to answer that question. And so by the end, I feel like we've come to a place where, yes, we'll gather at the river, flowing by the throne of God. So the whole piece is pretty much a question and an answer using one hymn. So we get to sing the refrain at the end, and it ends, very triumphantly. But there's parts of this piece that are, might challenge you. I wanted to kind of run the gamut of emotion and experience. So just know that it's quite an adventure. and I'm very pleased and honored to have done this. I hope you enjoy it. I look forward to talking with some of you about it afterwards. I hope you find a meaning in it, and I think that's about all I have to say. Let's see. Yeah, that's about it. Something like that. All right. So the choir and orchestra will come out in just a minute, and our 4 soloists. It's an honor to have you all here today. Thank you for coming out for this. It's such a privilege to have this really one-of-a-kind work of art in our building in the middle of Kansas. It's pretty. When I told people that I was doing this piece and that this window was here, they were like, "What?" I was like, "Yeah, it's the largest single stained glass window in the world." And they're like, "It's in Kansas?" And I'm like, "It is. It's right here." And so it's just really remarkable, and it's an honor to have done the piece for it. And I hope that the music does half the justice to the beauty of the window. So thanks to Judson Studios for putting it together, and I really hope you all enjoyed the River of Light. Thank you.